Jelani and Venice this morning. Really talented young people that we have with us.
Yes.
All right. And it's good to see all of you this morning. In fact, PA had sent me a message earlier. He thought because of the rain that it was just going to be the two of us here. And I see he brought you all along. So thank you, PA. But we are in a new month, and our theme for the month is letting go, surrender, taste free. And I meant to start out by saying, I forgot. Let the church say amen. And I say that because many of you are familiar within the black church tradition, what we call and response, where there's a person who is saying something and they get, affirmation from the congregation. They say amen or teach or that's right or say it or uh-oh. And they get this toe stepped on, all of those things. But it's a part of that. And Open Heart, we have our own call and response where, usually every now and then somebody will say amen or somebody will say teach or something like that. But what I get a lot of are head nods. And people will be nodding their heads when I know that people are into what I'm saying. And then there's some people, if I'm not quite, there for them, they'll look off or they'll look down or they'll look at their watch or their phone or those kinds of things. But it helps me know that. And I say that because I think back to there are three particular subjects, if you will, that when I have talked about them in my career as a minister, in the traditional sense, I can remember one time when I talked about the fact that Jesus told jokes. And I was preaching, and the congregation was saying amen, amen. And when I said that about the fact that, and also because Jesus being who he was, Jesus also told jokes, and there were crickets. Nobody said amen. I couldn't even get the lights to say amen. And I know that's one. Number two, when I talk about forgiveness, whether it's in the traditional setting or even here, people tend to get quiet. People tend not to do a whole lot of nodding because the thing of it is we all want to be forgiven. But it's sometimes difficult to forgive others. Uh-oh. Because you'll know.
Amen.
You'll know what that so-and-so did to me. So it's difficult to get people to, kind of be with you when you start talking about forgiveness too much because people are, they're still waiting to see what I'm going to say and where I'm going with all of this. And then the third thing is when I talk about surrender. People get the idea about surrender. See, y'all got quiet. See? And we talk about surrender because we live in a culture that values self-autonomy. We don't like to be told what to do. And a lot of people have the notion or the idea that surrender is about somebody being able to tell us what to do and we just do it and we just give up. We just, and I don't blame you. I know that it's a part of what's inbred in us and ingrained in us, the idea and the notion that we are self-autonomous and ain't nobody going to tell me what to do. I remember when I was serving as a pastor in Dallas, and there was a little boy. I don't know why I had this in my mind, but he was just one of those types that I just knew that this was going to work out this way. I went up to him one day, and he was, short, so I bent down and I looked at him, and I just nodded my head yes. And automatically he nodded his head no. And if I nodded my head no, he would nod his head yes. That whatever I did, he was going to be the exact opposite. But it helped me to see how, a lot of us don't really like to be told what to do. We have this notion in us, this desire in us to assert ourselves and to be our own man or our own woman. And so that's a part of it. But what if I told you that surrender was not about giving up it was not about allowing ourselves to be told what to do? What if I told you that surrender was not any way, shape, or form waving the white flag saying, this is it, I don't want to have any part of it anymore? What if I told you that surrender was about claiming our personal power? That surrender was about stepping into the place where we really are meant to be. That surrender was about being who we ultimately are, put on this planet and in this plane and in this space, who we were meant to be. What if I told you that is what surrender is all about? Could I take a glass, a clean glass, and pour clean, pure water, and take a clean spoon and put it in it and stir it and get muddy water? Why not? Because it's clean spoon, it's a clean water, it's clean glass. There has to be mud in it in order to get muddy water. And the thing of it is, I remember years ago now, there was a friend of mine, we were sitting at his house, and his daughter, who was 7 then, she's probably 20-something now, wow. But she came into the den where we were, arms crossed, stomping across the floor, lip poked out. And when he did it, she did it, he looked at her and he said, baby, what's wrong? And she turned around to point at her older sister that had followed her and said, she made me mad. She made me mad. And of course the older sister said, no, I didn't. And then they started going back and forth with one another. And he said, hold up. And he pulled his younger daughter to him and he looked at her and he said, baby, she can't make you mad unless there was some mad already in you. She can't make you mad unless there was some mad already in you. How many of us point to somebody and say, they make me mad, they make me sick, they make me discouraged, this discouraged me, this pushed me back, this set me back, this is holding me back, this is making me nauseous, this is making me miserable. Well, none of those things can ultimately happen to us if some of that, if some of that wasn't already in us. Couldn't come out if it wasn't already there. And David Hawkins talks about the fact that our feelings and our emotions, the way that we process things and the way that all of this happens, he says that there are 3 ways in which feelings manifest, or all of that in terms of their being inside of us and what happens when things happen around us, because it's ultimately internal and not external. But the internal says the first thing is that when we talk about feelings because of things that happen to us and those kinds of things, we suppress them, we push them down. We say, I'm not going to deal with this. This didn't happen. And so it's sitting there like mud in a glass. And it's just waiting to get stirred up. The second way in which it happens oftentimes is expression. There's some of us that will say, well, you don't have to worry about me suppressing because I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. I'm going to let you know what's on my mind. I'm going to get it all out. I'm going to put it out there, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And a lot of times, though, we don't necessarily recognize, like the Course in Miracles teaches us, that what we say we're mad about is what we're not really mad about. And then the third component is we escape. Instead of dealing with it, instead of anything acknowledging it, we escape from it. We escape from it through all kinds of things, through substances, through other people, through habits, and through all of those things. But ultimately, rather than dealing with them, we find ourselves trying to move away from them. So this month, we're going to talk about surrender. We're going to talk about how to clear muddy waters. Talk about how instead of that remaining in us to just get stirred up over and over and over again, because a lot of times we feel like we've got it cleared, but we haven't gotten it cleared, and then just let the right situation, the circumstance, or the right person come along, and it gets stirred up again. For a lot of us, that might be with family. Because when people go to on holidays and things like that, and they go visit family, and they tell you that if you really want to know where you are in terms of your spiritual growth, go home. Because people know how to push those buttons, and that stuff is still there. And so we're going to talk about how we can move to a point where we clear so that the mud isn't just sitting at the bottom. It's not even in the glass.
Well, amen.
How it's not even sitting at the bottom. It's not even in the glass. And when we're able to do that, when we're able to release and surrender in that way, we taste freedom. We taste freedom. Paramahansa Yogananda was approached by his younger brother one day to ask about meditation. And he said, whenever I meditate, my mind feels kind of restless, and I see stuff, and I'm thinking stuff all the time, and everything like that. And so rather than answering him directly, Yogananda told him to go and get some mud. So he got some mud, and Yogananda got a glass, and he put the mud in the glass, and he stirred it around, and the glass got real muddy and everything. And he asked his brother, he said, "Can you see particles in there?" And he said, "No, not really. It's just all cloudy. It's just all muddy." And so he said, "Well, wait a minute. Just wait for a few minutes." And then the water started to settle down, and the mud started to flow down to the bottom of the glass. And there were particles then that could be seen. And he asked his brother, "Now can you see the particles?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I can see them now." And he said to him that what happens when we start meditating, what we don't realize is that our mind at first is like just that muddy mass. It's just swirling around and nothing can be seen. But as we first get into it and we start to settle down, we can start seeing the particles like those thoughts which, float by and everything. And we think our mind is getting restless. But what's really happening is that we're on our way to another level. And it's going to be the same way this month, that as we explore about surrendering, and as we explore about letting go, and as we explore about our emotions, one of the things that may happen to you is you hear me saying, well, I'm going to explore ways in which we can make it so that the mud's not even in the glass. And you're going to say, how in the world can he say that? Because I'm seeing all these particles, all of these emotions, all of these thoughts, all of these feelings, all of these things that are happening, all of these discussions that are going on in my head, these conversations, these arguments, these doubts, these fears, this anxiety, all of this. Keep resting. Keep waiting, keep focusing, keep intending, because what's going to happen that as we start to pay attention to it, we discover what our minds have been doing all the time. Then we stop being captive to it. We can let go. We can surrender. We can taste freedom. We can clear muddy waters. Let the church say amen. young people and the talented young people that we have here at Open Heart an opportunity to give them a showcase and show you how Spirit works. When Vanessa and Jelani walked in this morning, he said, I'd like to play this morning. So, without further
I will play the Two Grenadiers.
Thank you.